I'm the new best thing, better than you've ever seen. I'm the new best thing, I'm gonna be the king. I bring that ching, ching, ching. Yeah, I'm the new best thing, I'm the new best thing.
Hello, welcome to Hedera Forum, episode 6. We're happy you could join us today. Happy to announce that despite our missed connection last week, Pablo with Hashing Systems is going to join us. Hey, Pablo, how are you?
Hey everybody, good to be here. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing all right. And Brandon, of course, as usual.
Yep, good to be back, of course.
All right, so we were going to do this as episode 5A, but let's just call it episode 6, and we'll talk about some fun stuff, what happened in the past week or so. So Pablo is the
CEO and
CEO
founder
of Hashing Systems. Pablo, I've seen you around the Hedera ecosystem for a long time, probably longer than anyone I can think of, really. I mean, you've been following the project since pretty much its inception, right?
Yeah, at least Hedera 18 is when I actively began working on the project. But even before that, I remember hearing a lot about Hedera back in 2017. But yeah, 2019 was when we jumped into everything with Helix Accelerator.
Nice. And I know you guys had recently attended, I guess, virtually, and Hashing System passed out some prizes for, you guys had multiple prizes this year for the hackathon, didn't you?
Yeah, for Hedera 20, we figured it's good to encourage a lot of smaller prizes to get as many people invested within the platform on Hedera and kind of trying out more things.
Yeah. Brandon, anything to add on the hackathon? Were you able to watch that closing ceremony?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I am a little curious. So did you compete in Hedera 18?
In Hedera 18, yes.
Okay. So what made you decide to go from a competitor to helping put on and offering prizes?
So I like to build the community within Hedera. I figured my time is better spent at putting the tools around the ecosystem so that people could easily create applications on Hedera rather than me competing to just get more prizes. I've done like 20 or more hackathons so far, and it's good. But I see fostering a community as a bigger goal here.
Yeah, admirable.
Yeah, and to that point, we have, just take us through your website here a little bit. Specifically, I guess, down here, which is, you've got a few different products. Can you walk us through what the Composer is and why somebody might want to use that?
Sure. Thanks. So Composer is a Chrome wallet. It lets you hold your private keys securely on Chrome, Brave, and Opera browsers. And what that means is now you can allow websites access to your private keys without actually giving them access to the private keys. So you can sign for transactions, you can sign for deployments or download, upload, send messages through HTTPS. So basically the whole access to your private keys to do things on Hedera, Composer gives you that secure availability so that any website could code using it. Very similar feature set to what MetaMask provides for Ethereum, although it's a completely different code base.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, man. And I know that some of the contestants in the hackathon were actually using this, right?
Yeah, we had
in
like
their projects?
30 some odd submissions.
That's really great. So from a competitor in the 18 hackathon to a core piece of building block in the next hackathon 2 years later is pretty sweet.
Yeah. And so with a console is really kind of the next step from there. You might have all these functions on a browser, but what does that mean? And so we wanted to create more applications, and we realized we could automate some of those things. We kept building these sort of dashboards where you could click, deploy, click, call a function on the contract. And these were, it was a lot of copy and paste. You know, you would compile a smart contract and then copy the application binary interface and kind of just copy and paste, and we realized we could automate a lot of that to create the interfaces. So on console, which is console.hashingsystems.com, you can now do all of that by clicking a button. So you can deploy a contract, upload a file and download it on Hedera, and create your own topics, choose who you want to submit, who you want to be able to submit on that topic, and pretty much do everything you would want to do to create a project for Hedera, and then export that as a project so you can now start building in JavaScript.
Very nice.
Make it easy for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can walk a horse to the water, so we'll see if...
That's right.
It's nice to have all those tool sets available so that people, when they don't have to reinvent the wheel and they can just get up and running, right?
Right. It's something we realized there was a big pain point during Helix. There were at least 3 different startups trying to come up with their own tool set, and they weren't planning to share it. They just wanted to have a tool set.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized, let's put some resources into just getting these tool sets available for everybody. And this is where we got to. Now, Hash Package is really the collection of libraries that let you interact with Composer, but it also provides ways to let other users kind of import the private key directly. So all the features you see on websites like myhbarwallet.com, where you have click and then like add your account ID or copy your mnemonic, you can do all of that automatically.
So is this, are you doing this out of the kindness of your heart, or are you building a business model around this?
So first we need to get the people building. Now the business model for us is managing all these applications. So as individuals start deploying these solutions, they'll want more robust features like team management. So you might be working on a project and you want to let someone else access it. In order for you to invite someone, you have to start paying a monthly fee. I believe we have like $7 a month.
Okay. Reasonable.
Yeah. What's this award down here? 2019 Golden Kitty winner.
Yeah, so Golden Kitties are awards given out by this website called Product Hunt, which is this fun LA-based startup now owned by AngelList, and they curate lots of startups, and we were able to position a lot of promotion around this to be nominated for a Golden Kitty, and then we kind of sent that out to everyone through Hedera and got a lot of votes. And basically, best developer tool of the year for last year for Composer.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the website looks great too, man.
Thanks.
Beautiful. And down here, you've got some use cases highlighted on what could be useful for.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, let me know when you want us to share the little bit of news piece.
We got some fresh news here on Hedera Forum from Hashing Systems.
Uh-huh.
I think there's a time as ever.
Yep, no time like the present.
So try going to whbar.co.
All right, bear with me here.
Oh, co. No, .com was more expensive. We couldn't. It was like a few $1,000s. So
Yeah, we don't want that.
So imagine if you could use HBAR through Ethereum.
Yeah. I just saw somebody talking about this. Ethereum might have to use HCS, right?
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
this is kind of the first layer. In order for you to use HCS through Ethereum, you need to know how to pay for it. So we figured out an interesting mechanism for generating trusted proofs that money is locked up in an account, or in this case, a smart contract on Hedera, and be able to unlock or lock that money based on blocks on Ethereum. So
So
a
kind
lot
of
of proofs.
like a bridge escrow service sort of thing.
Yeah, although you control it, so it's user managed. There's almost no infrastructure on our side. It's a lot of mathematical magic rather than us deploying a server and holding the HBAR. We're just deploying a portal that lets you generate the mathematical proof that you've locked the money in a kind of lock smart contract. And on the other hand, in order to unlock that money, you would need to provide certified proofs that you've done something on Ethereum.
So how would this be used? Like a use case? Like this?
So,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of use cases. Mainly, and I mean, initially, we're looking at lending. We're looking at being able to use the value that's intrinsic of HBAR to be able to generate dollars. So imagine holding in Ethereum today is very simple. You might have 100 Ether. You can generate DAI, and DAI is the synthetic or digital dollar that is based upon the intrinsic value of Ethereum. So we could do that same thing with HBAR and be able to access an ROI from your current token assets.
Okay, so pretty much we're utilizing the DeFi that is being already built on Ethereum, but directly be able to port HBAR into that.
Yes.
I like that. Wrapped HBAR. Is that what the W HBAR stands for?
Yes. WHY.
Oh, that's interesting. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like this too.
And
I've always thought the vending machine is like the ultimate analogy for the smart contract. It's just so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just put a few tokens and it does something. Here I'll put like compound and DAI, but like you're able to do almost anything. So you can create bounties on like gitcoin.co, or you can put GitHub bounties, or you can go to compound and loan out your HBAR. You still keep the HBAR, so you're just making extra cash.
Who doesn't like that?
Yeah, good stuff. Very interesting.
Very cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing that here. And I hope that people will take a moment to check out whbar.co. And if they have questions, I suppose they can reach out to you at Hashing Systems.
Yeah, so if you go to the Hashing Systems site, we might actually put a little support also on this one. But on hashingsystems.com, there's
a link here somewhere.
On the bottom right, if you click the little circle.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You send just try sending a message real quick.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Pablo.
And then I get a notification. So it goes into our Slack, and yeah, it works great. So
nice. That's a lot more high tech than we've got around here.
Yeah.
Barely navigate the Brave browser here.
We got a ton of just automations to help manage a lot of the communication with everybody to make sure we don't lose people. So when people are confused on console, they just kind of ask, and we can answer right away.
I have another question, Pablo. I know this has been around for a while, and the .hh domains is done through Hashing Systems, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what your vision is there?
So we have some fun plans. They're still in the drawing boards, but the vision with Hashname service is to provide a simple way to identify different resources on the platform. So just like let's say you're coding an API for a company, you're not going to be typing up all the IP addresses from every server that you're setting up. You're probably going to set up some sort of routing mechanism that says API 1, API 2, or API 3. And that's where we see the value of HNS. So you may be setting up multiple topics on Hedera, maybe different smart contracts having some accounts that you're referring to more often than not. You can automatically manage that configuration directly through HNS rather than bake it into your code. which would allow you much lighter deployments.
Okay, good. I was always curious about that.
Which in the future, we're looking forward to Namebase and seeing how we can integrate better with the handshake TLDs and have the .hh through there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Pablo. I'm sure we're just very much skimming the surface here. But, you know, we wanted to recognize you've been around for a long time and doing some really cool stuff. And thanks for coming on and giving us a few minutes. If anybody's got questions, reach out to Pablo at Hashing Systems. We're going to move on and just talk about a little news and some fun stuff. Pablo, can you stick around with us for a few minutes?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Good stuff.
All right. So Brandon just sent me this. I guess this is kind of more or less a live chart here, right, Brandon?
I think Pablo, were you the one who put this up on?
No, I replied to the guy.
Yeah, there's been a wedge pattern, and it broke out before, and we've been watching it for some time, and it just keeps getting longer and longer, but staying in that wedge pattern. So there's a question as to what's going to happen, what's going to be the catalyst to break it out to the higher side, to a new bullish trend, or break down to a bearish trend. So, but we've been watching it since the breakout for the Google announcement. So we're going to keep watching it, and we'll see how long it gets, but eventually it's going to have to break out one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't push higher numbers with LG and South Korea.
Yeah, it seemed like there was some buy the rumors, sell the fact with that. Certainly we got some good movement after the announcement, but we got a big move the week before, and I'm not sure if there were people that heard a few rumors around that, and we saw some price action above. Then we pulled back not long after the announcement. But yeah, I thought the same thing, and it seems like Korea, of course, is a great crypto market. We'll just have to see what they actually create from it. I think the community is becoming show me, don't tell me, so that they want to actually see the use cases, and I think they're coming, and I think we'll see some action following the first enterprise use cases. And I know we already have ad stacks, and I certainly consider them a enterprise use case. But once we start getting, a coupon bureau and some of the council member use cases, I think that's really what is going to catalyze this space.
Yeah, maybe we just need to pull some money together and pay someone to just be a PI and watch a Dragon Glass, because we could definitely find out some of the use cases going. Because ad stacks, or maybe even the coupon bureau, they're using the testnet somehow.
Right.
Somebody is, right? Didn't we have 59 million transactions? I think consistently we had, 8,000 transactions per second or something crazy over the last week, which produced one day of 59,000 or higher. So yeah, certainly testing something. And if they're testing something, they're planning on deploying something.
And we can find out which accounts.
That's right.
On the other topic of use cases, there was something else that was sort of floating around about some real estate in the UAE. Brandon, have you been following that story at all? And what do you make of this?
I did. So buried in the announcement about Swisscom blockchain, he discussed a use case where they were talking about tokenizing some real estate, and the company that they were doing it with, and I forget the name of the company.
It's like MR or something. AAR.
Yeah, they own the Burj Khalifa, right, in which is the tallest building in the world. So it caught some attention, and they walked it back a little bit. There was a retraction on it today, saying that they're using Hyperledger, not Hedera Hashgraph. But my guess is
we all know what that means.
Yes, my guess is they're probably using Hyperledger Fabric, and it's going to use HCS. So we'll see what comes of it, but it certainly caught some attention. I don't think that the initial announcement was false. I think that, just like we just said, using Hyperledger Fabric and then using Hashgraph Consensus Service.
Probably just let it out a little bit too early there. Maybe had to reel it in a little bit, I'm guessing. But
yeah,
hey, that happens.
Yep. I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that, we don't hear about that's going to get deployed here eventually. But whoever's coming up with these use cases aren't quite ready to tell their competition what they're doing just yet.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, let's move on to this one. You want to walk us through this?
All right, so we talked a while ago about the fee differential between Hedera and Algorand, and this isn't to put down any other platforms. It's just to crunch the numbers to see what the difference is between some of these platforms. And this gentleman, Dan Held, he's the Kraken head of business. He's been in the blockchain space or the Bitcoin space for a long time. He's what I think most of us would call a Bitcoin maximalist. I listened to this interview with Cointelegraph, and they put out a lot of good interviews. I listened to the interview, and he said he didn't like to be called a Bitcoin maximalist for whatever reason, but he doesn't think we should spend any time on any other coins. I know we don't like the term altcoins, but he thinks we should just ignore all the other altcoins. Blockchain is only good for one thing. And I'll go through exactly what he said here. And initially what he's talking about is what people were saying about blockchain back in 2017. He says, couldn't we take this tech called blockchain and repurpose it for everything? We'll put a blockchain on the moon. We'll put a blockchain on food. We'll put blockchain on industrial stuff. We'll sprinkle it like Salt Bay. Sprinkle some blockchain dust, and it will magically give off some efficiencies, right?
I hope
so
you can
now
cut
he
in a
goes.
little Salt Bay right there, Brandon.
Yeah, well, I was just having crabs, so I know about Old Bay. But now he goes into why that's not a good idea. So Satoshi purpose-built blockchain tech to build Bitcoin. Blockchain tech sucks. It's terrible. It makes so many trade-offs to build Bitcoin that it is basically ineffective for almost anything else. Next slide. If you look at the security model of how Bitcoin and every other blockchain works, which is the block reward function, you'll quickly notice as the subsidy, so the newly minted coins of any blockchain decreases over time, transaction fees have to replace that subsidy. That is why it's called a subsidy. It subsidizes the future transaction volume on the chain that will drive the fee revenue to incentivize miners properly. There's only two chains that have any meaningful fee volume. That's Bitcoin and Ethereum. The other chains simply won't have any security at the end of the day because people won't be using it. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, I had actually made these slides up talking about this exact thing weeks ago. I started to work on it, or I actually started discussing it with a few of the community members weeks ago, and I made these slides up last week. But then he mentioned that, and I just had to put that in there. But this chart shows the total mining rewards and how much of that mining reward is made up by the fee revenue. And the fee revenue is the only thing that's sustainable, that will go on over time, because eventually they're going to run out of tokens, right? After 42 years for Bitcoin, they're going to run out of all their tokens. And the same thing is going to happen for Ethereum. It has a little bit different mechanism, but it's pretty much the same thing.
In Ethereum, it's infinite inflation.
Yeah, but isn't it supposed to, it's disinflationary, right? So it decreases over time, and it should max out at around 212 million coins, or is that, I know, exactly,
I don't
right?
think it's going to happen.
We don't know, right? So, or they can just inflate their token away, right? If they just continue to mint coins, you don't have a fixed supply cryptocurrency, and we know the issues with that. But the total energy cost, so for example, with Bitcoin, and this is not any other cost of the miners. This is just the electricity they're paying for. This isn't the mining machines they're using, nothing else. Just in energy consumption, they're using $3.34 billion worth of electricity. And that's at 5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is pretty low. But we use a lower number for Bitcoin because apparently they're using more efficient electricity. But either way, only 4.4% of that total energy cost is covered by fee revenue. So pretty darn low. With Ethereum, it's slightly higher. It's 4.7. So without that subsidy, miners are going to have to drop offline. There's no way they can continue to mine with the current hash rate with that fee revenue. So essentially what I'm saying is it's unsustainable. Hedera, on the other hand, has a lot lower bar. Granted, with Bitcoin, right now the fee revenue or the transaction fee is, I think, $1.5 per transaction. So that's 15,000 times what Hedera's fee is. So Hedera has a consistent cost of 1/100th of a cent compared to Bitcoin at $1.5. So there's a big difference there, but it changes a lot. I know we were talking about this last week or last month, and the fee cost for Bitcoin was 30 cents, and now it's $1.50. With Ethereum last month, we were talking about them having a 15-cent transaction fee. Well, this month it's 50 or 70 cents. The other day I was looking at it, it was 70 cents. I think it's dropped down to about 50 cents. But either way, either their hashing rate's going to have to come down substantially as they go through their halvings and they reduce this subsidy, and that's just going to reduce their security. So just thought it was something we should look at. Hedera, now they have a lot lower barrier because they don't have all that wasted energy for the functioning of their mining machine. So
that we know of, though.
What's that?
That we know of. That, yeah.
Go ahead, explain.
Well, I mean, if we look at the numbers on the help docs, we can make all assumptions about the usage of power from Hedera. Mm-hmm. And as the average numbers I found is about $1,000 a month per node.
Okay.
So that's pretty much, $10K per year. But we have to look at
your numbers are probably more accurate. I just kind of made that one up.
Yeah, it's $1,000 a month just to run a node. But you have to look at that now and the fees collected. And I don't think they're making that much money yet in fees, although with appreciation is definitely going to be very nice for some companies. Mm-hmm. But the sleeping giant here is not the tokens, but really the dollar-priced transactions. Because you have no idea how many companies I've been talking to about this issue, and they just don't realize they want to build on Ethereum, they want to create stuff on Ethereum, and Ethereum is great. It's financial backbone, all these cool apps, but it's expensive. They don't realize that it's expensive. They talk about mainnet deployments without thinking, well, you need to get Ethereum. And sometimes it might cost you 5 times what it usually costs. And there's no rhyme or reason. A random CryptoKitty app might be running and you need to get your transactions through. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to pay that.
Yeah. Like right now, as I said, it's 50 cents per transaction. That's crazy. And you never know what it's going to be compared to Hedera. That's always going to be 1/100th of a cent. It's paid in HBAR, of course, but priced in dollars. So it makes things easier to plan for. But right now, and that's the little chart there on the right, based off of the $1,000 or $10,000 per year. Now that was a little bit lower than what you were saying. But even our fee revenue right now is about $51,000 a year. So if we have 15 nodes right now we're 34%. Now, of course, or we're covering those costs, 34% of those costs for running those nodes. Maybe a little bit less, maybe it's 25%, but it's still better than what Ethereum and Bitcoin are showing right now. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, we know once Coupon Bureau and AdsDAX get some of these new customers online and some of the council members get their use cases going, that fee revenue is going to go up significantly. We're doing about 1.2 to 1.4 million transactions per day, and that's creating that $51,000 per year in fee revenue. But we could be doing that per hour.
Well, the fun part becomes when a company starts using Hedera and they're big enough, so they would be able to run a node. Now think about this. If I am Walmart and I run a lot of transactions, wouldn't I run a node so I can get 70% cash back?
Sure, absolutely. Makes sense to me.
Like I send all the transactions to my own node, and I get the majority of the network fee, the node fee, to myself. So then, effectively, I'm getting a cash back on all my transactions.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, next slide there, Jesse.
Yep.
Maybe.
There we go.
There we go. This is just pretty much because we're not always going to have 15 nodes running. That is going to increase at some point. Now, of course, maybe 2022, we have all the council member nodes, and we'll say by that point we have an additional 11 trusted nodes. Of course, that's still not very much. It might be anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million to run those nodes compared to the energy cost of Bitcoin, which is up at 3.3 billion. Now, of course, Bitcoin has a lot more nodes, but then I did one down there at the bottom to show 10,000 nodes running on Hedera. Now, Pablo, you might know better than I. Do you think we'll ever need or have 10,000 nodes, Hedera nodes running? I just don't see that being necessary.
No, I think there's the two extremes. There's the extreme that Hedera won't have that many nodes and everyone's going to run their own DAppNet. And then there's the extreme where, yeah, we're going to have millions of nodes. So I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. We're going to have very popular DAppNets, some more popular than others because they provide some token bridging features. Others will provide consortiums. The next big thing we're going to see is just consortiums running on Hedera. So smaller companies or groups of companies that are not worth $20 billion, or 10, I forget what the minimum is, but companies that are not worth enough, they basically will pull together their resources and run a consortium as part of Hedera.
So Pablo, you mentioned about $1,000 a month, which is just under what I was estimating for costs. Will that go up significantly when we start to see really high transaction volume, say 100 million transactions per day, or is that going to be pretty consistent? I
would presume that it will go up. I think the majority of the cost is just idle hardware.
Okay. Sure.
So you buy a gaming machine and you're not playing video games on it, you might not be running at 100%.
Sure.
But as soon as you start playing a bunch of video games or processing a lot of data, you will. But then you might incur a bit more cost in terms of bandwidth. So if your node is connecting to outside nodes, so outside of let's say you're running on a region in AWS and connecting to Azure, yeah, you're going to be charged quite a bit. So that will be an interesting number to look into, the cost for transmitting data across nodes.
All right, well, good stuff. So all I was trying to show here is what we want to measure ourselves by, what kind of value is being created. And that really comes down to the fee revenue. And we're going to keep a close eye on that for Hedera. And I think we should do the same. And that's how we should compare Hedera to other platforms.
Yeah, in that sense, it's very much a utility. And how would you plan for if you were any type of enterprise and you were going to be doing hundreds or thousands of transactions? I mean, there's no way you could plan for your budget for even the month or let alone the year, having absolutely no idea what it's going to cost you. If you were using Ethereum and it jumps from 10 cents per transaction up to 70 and back down to 5, and yeah, it makes it really difficult, no question.
Yeah.
All right. What's this one about, Brandon?
This one was actually the lead into the other ones, but no big deal. We'll just skip that one.
Also, Algorand.
Yeah, that was just comparing the fee revenue between Algorand and Hedera. This is actually an old slide, but yeah, it's just showing that the two platforms, and even though Algorand charges twice as much for a transaction as Hedera has significantly more fee revenue, and we're up more closely to $140 per day, but we'll keep a close eye on it going forward, and hopefully once we get some more enterprise level use cases, that'll go up significantly.
Okay, this was the one that was announced this week, Avery Dennison. What do you guys make of this announcement?
Pablo?
It's a good announcement. I don't think it's a shaker, but it definitely signifies that companies are kind of waking up to some of these solutions. I know VeChain got into Walmart China. So we're seeing this across the board, not just with Hedera, and it's a good sign. Now with these types of solutions, having them join a council is much stronger than anything. We need to see how it permeates Avery Dennison, and if other people that work with Avery join up.
So this
Other
is,
companies, technically.
this is their website here. I was poking around on this a little bit before and going to news. I mean, you know, we talked about this before, Brandon. When Hedera, when we have a new council member, it's kind of like, here's a little bit of news for you. I mean, they don't even mention it here.
Yeah, this one was pretty quiet, and I'm not sure the reason behind that. There was, a small press release and all that. They put out some tweets, but they may have something cooking in the background. Who knows? We'll see what they have going forward here. But they mainly focus on creating medical products, RFID chips, apparel branding labels, things like that. So I can certainly see something with the RFID chips, some use cases around that, add some trust. No question they could use it.
Yeah, so there's this guy in California that was in the call for, by the way, this is all public information, so I'm not trying to spread rumors, but it's on the minutes. The Senior Global Director, Avery Dennison, Pradeep Iyer, he was the one who was part of the council meeting back in February. And so that's how we can maybe get more information about what potentials. So with T-Mobile, we're seeing that it comes from T Labs. We won't see a lot of implementations come right now into T-Mobile USA, but with this, maybe.
I was looking on the one thing they do have on their news release here. So some other blockchain project. I've never heard of this. I guess they just acquired Smart Track, another company. Avery Dennison did, but it looks like they're partnering with SUKU. Never heard of it.
Huh.
So, not sure.
To track PPE for the pandemic. So,
but as we know, I mean, a lot of times they'll call things blockchain, and it's really just DLT. So who knows? This might be something.
Everledger.
Yeah. Let's check this out quick. SUKU. What is this even? Truth verified. Well, we already got that. Why do people continue to make these platforms? It's like it's done.
Right.
Oh, these guys are like, there's this company that's super popular with NFC and blockchain.
They all keep doing the same thing. I mean, you can't do any better.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
We can still chat. We got some time, but that's all we have prepared.
Any closing remarks there, Pablo?
I'm excited to see what comes out of all these partnerships. I mean, the first step is kind of saying we're working together, but you'll see once people realize there's some cool use cases, and some guy will take that use case and just run with it. As we saw with smart contracts. I mean, smart contract wasn't really the innovation. It was the ERC20. And then thousands of people went off and took off with it, which led to Ethereum hitting $1,000 in price. So,
which also led to a bunch of people losing their pants investing in garbage tokens.
Yeah, and a lot of people getting Lambos. So
is that the real use case so far? I mean, that's like the only use case really that there was kind of a transfer of wealth.
Yeah, initially it was transfer of wealth. I think there's some small things that still don't sit right with blockchain because you're trying to merge with the internet that we know of that's today that is sort of free. So I visit your website, you're hosting it for free to a blockchain style solution where it's pay to play. You want to access my website? Well, pay the transaction fee so you can get the information. So how do you connect those two? And I think Ethereum was really helped by Big Daddy Joseph Lubin, who basically was putting in $10 million a month to pay for Infura to run so that everyone else could make money. Now, do we need that in Hedera, or maybe we need something else? We need to look at that and say, this is the main use case that we can kind of scale.
Well, I think we're going to have plenty of options of use cases. I think we're going to see the council members come up with some pretty interesting things. So I think we'll get that killer dApp from somebody.
You're looking forward to it.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
No question.
Well, thanks again, Pablo. Great to have you. Maybe we could have you again. I know we just really skimmed the surface on hashing systems and we're just kind of chatting, but yeah, thanks for taking the time, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, anytime. Just just hit me out.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Yeah.